Something going on that if you don't drive a Commodore, you can't win a race around here.
That's the scene. So look at the crowd. 1 minute board.
I think the 80s were some of the best racing that we ever had, and spectacular.
Whoa! Not much between them. There was almost a touch. Boy, Dick Johnson wants to lead this in a hurry.
Last minute check by drivers. Check the harness. Check the gloves. Check the helmet.
Oh, he's hit the fence and he's gone off the track into a tree.
There's Dick Johnson taking the helmet off. He's okay.
My memories of that era were that the sport was going through a pretty big change from Group C to Group A.
30 seconds. Check communications with the pit. As far as what's going on under the bonnet and under the car, too late.
Oh, he's gone. Kevin Bartlett.
Oh, it's over.
Kevin Bartlett, another wretched year for him.
The differences between the cars is what really made the motor racing.
He pulls up on the outside and takes it.
10 seconds to the James Hardy 1000.
It was a fledgling time, you know, sort of some uncertainty, but some real prosperity at the same time.
Down goes the flag of racing, and Grice just spreading off the field. He's gone. Long has a brilliant start. Down on the inside, and Brock will win the start.
Start of a new era towards the end of the 80s in that young guys really got opportunity.
Jim Richards throwing everything at this 22-year-old.
That's a remarkable driving performance by Seaton.
And it was an interesting period because a lot of the real superstar drivers were probably just coming off the back of what had been superstar careers, you know, the Moffats and the Brocks, the Richards, the Perkins, the Johnsons.
Trying to make it 3 wide as they go into the first of the right-handers, and it's Jim Richards who goes through to take the lead.
The best racing I've ever seen in my life, and a very exciting time to be involved in motorsport.
Yes, thank you once again. Welcome to the Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. This is a program that celebrates the awesome history of sedan touring car racing in Australia. It's a wonderful story to tell, and over the next several months, we'll be telling the story in great detail, pulling material out of the Seven archive, wandering around the countryside talking to legend drivers, visiting Bowden's Own in Queensland, the National Motor Racing Museum at Bathurst, and Shannon's in Melbourne. Very much looking forward to it. And we've got some experts to help tell the tale as well. Aaron Noonan and Mark Osler will be along shortly to tell more of it, so give them a warm round of applause. Today we are at Bowden's Own, this magnificent collection of cars that surround me at the moment in Queensland, a private collection of very rare and priceless racing cars. And our topic today is the 1980s, an incredible era where we had established racing stars, very well known, and the beginning of an emergence of new talent appearing on the Australian motor racing front. To begin with, let's welcome our first legend of the day. Would you put your hands together, please, for Mr. Kevin Bartlett. Hi, mate. KB, lovely to see you. Grab a seat. Appreciate you taking time. How are you going there with the old open wheeler injuries? You're all right?
Oh, they're coming along. Yeah.
Going all right for a young guy?
They continue to come along.
I want to have a look at some of this material, some of what you've achieved in your life, and just get everybody in the audience to understand what this man has done in motor racing. Competed in the very first Australian Touring Car Championship race at Nublar, just outside Orange, in 1960. 1965, Sandown Enduro winner. 1974, Bathurst winner with Johnny Goss in the Blue Falcon. Twice a Bathurst pole sitter, 80 and 81, fantastic laps. Runner-up in the Touring Car Championship to Peter Brock in 1980. A veteran of 24 Bathurst starts, beginning back in 1963, and it continues. Twice an Australian driving champion because he did extraordinary things in open wheelers, and a veteran of the Tasman Series. That is worth a round of applause. Thank you. The context of this show, though, is the 1980s, and a car that will be forever linked to you is this magnificent beast behind us, the number 9, the Channel 9 Camaro. An amazing motor car.
Old Blue.
Old Blue.
Old Blue, yeah. Yeah, she's a good old machine, that.
And you really went in a completely different compass direction to everybody else because early on, at least, this was the one and only.
Well, in fact, when I got asked to present a car for the Touring Car Championship, and that was by Kerry Packer, I'd been working on these cars for a few years prior to that, and he said, look, he said, don't necessarily follow everybody else's lead. And he was a man that never followed anybody's lead anyway, as we know. He said, try and find something that's going to be competitive against these Fords and these Holdens. Ostensibly, one of the reasons was he didn't want Channel 9 aligned with either of the other makes, and I had to find something that wasn't aligned, and it wasn't too hard to pick a Group 1 car that had all of the ingredients that I was fairly well used to, because in Formula 5000 I was using the Chevy V8, and the engine was nearly a Formula 5000 engine, a bit bigger, but basically the same unit. So we knew where to buy the parts and how to buy the parts and how to put it together, etc.
Spectacular motor car. Incredible performance, and one of the things that we'll always remember are some of the performances in what was the Hardy's Heroes, or the shootout of the day. This is Bathurst in 1981. Have a look at KB in action.
Listen to that engine revving as Kevin takes it out beyond the white line. The ragged edge, as they say, as Bartlett goes after pole position, wants to cement it and sit on pole for the great race tomorrow.
Pole winner last year. Can he make it 2 in a row? By geez, really gunning for it over the top of the mountain. Very quick indeed up to this point. Even faster, I think, at this point than he was on the first run.
Wow, he's in good shape too. Look at the car starting to accelerate as he heads off down Conrod Straight.
Oh, the time at the top of Conrod is 1:57 plus, so he's going flat to the boards.
Down through the gears. Kev's got a brake this year. He's got 4-wheel discs. Down through the gears. This is going to be quick.
Oh, it's got to wrap it up for him, hasn't it?
2:36.43. He's done it.
Great stuff, KB. One of the points that needs to be made in those shootouts of the day also, big bucks on the line. You guys had to press on.
Oh yeah, I think it was. I think it was $5,000.
Yeah, which at the time was
for pole, which was pretty good. That the boys that worked on the car were really eager to get that 10% bonus.
Absolutely.
So they pulled out all stops.
Yeah, you mean 0.1 of 0.1%?
Oh, yes, that's right. That's
back
right.
In the day, I remember that era. It was very much Kevin Bartlett versus Peter Brock versus Dick Johnson. That early period in the 1980s, that's what it was all about. That was the focus.
Well, from a touring car point of view, yes. But I'd only just finished my open wheeler life the year before that in 1979, and I was still thinking open wheeler with all of this stuff, and that's how the Camaro evolved. This car was a car that I applied a few things of my own ideas, like adjustable sway bars and fiberglass rear springs and blah 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 blah. It goes on, but it was a car I got very, very comfortable with, and eventually when Bobby Forbes decided not to partner me in the next event, and we got Cole Bond in there, he said it was the best touring car he'd ever driven.
In those early 80s, there's lots of iconic moments that bob up that we see from time to time as well. In fact, we're going to go to the break with one, because nobody will ever forget the moment for Dick Johnson and The Rock, especially DJ himself. And I've got another real treat to come after the break as well, because we're going to see KB pick a fight that probably wasn't the brightest idea at the time. We'll take a break on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. We'll be back with more in a moment.
And we arrived at Bathurst pretty confident of what the car was capable of. And naturally, everyone that knows about The Rock destroyed the whole car, and we had to start again.
Oh, we've had another bang, and there's at the race.
Dick Johnson. Now, whether Dick has been hampered by the rescue truck here, which is out on the track, but he has gone into the fence. Dick Johnson, the leader, he's broken the left-hand front suspension. You can see by the way the car is leading down. Now, a rescue vehicle has been out to bring in one of the damaged vehicles. The officials are running back. I rather think that Dick came round the corner and found himself with an impossible situation.
Kevin, can you spare us a moment? Very frantic times those early laps. Too hard, or does the car feel like that?
Fine. It's just a complete and utter way. And turn right, turn straight across my path, put me straight into the fence. I took him, mate. That guy has to be black flag. I'm going to punch him in the mouth when the race is over, and that's a fact.
Well, did you?
No, I found out who he was and what his aspirations as an amateur boxer were.
Tell the story. tell the story.
One, Ron Wanless, and Ron was a fairly burly chap, and in fact, I did go up to him, and when I found out it was Ron, I went, OK, I better go and have a talk to him because I've spouted my silly mouth off out there.
I think it was spectacular. I would love to see you bowl up to Ronnie Wanless, who was an amateur boxer at the time, and try and resolve that one, had you in fact had a swing. Talked about those stats early on, and one thing was clear when you think about this motor car was that it definitely had one lap pace, and yes, you did win races with it, but ultimately you weren't able to put together that title that you and everybody else was chasing at the time. What was missing? Was it dollars? Was it performance? Was it crew? What was the missing ingredient?
It was a combination of all of the above. We had a set budget. Everybody thought that I had an unlimited budget with Packer. That wasn't the case. Great disappointment for us, and for me personally, that one, we were not able to snare Bathurst. I mean, that was an aim. That's why I missed other races, to try and win Bathurst. The Warnless incident, it was one of those that should not have happened. I mean, we were lapping, we were passing a car that had been in pits. He was in the middle of the road. I had Dick behind me. I picked the right-hand side, thinking the guy had seen me in his mirrors. The Queenslander, and pulled over, and I was alongside him. Go on.
I can get him on the phone.
I'm a Queenslander now, so I
can get him on the phone. We can sort this out if you'd like to.
I got him back later. That's another story. But look, it was a great disappointment. The touring car, we got very close with the touring car title. Second, yes, I got disqualified in one race, post-race scrutineering. Forgot to put the red dye in the green fuel, and everybody was doing it.
And there was a lot at stake in that period, and even in that clip that we saw before where we're talking about the point that I made, that it was Johnson, it was Brock, it was Bartlett, but the party was also being crashed in the early to mid-80s by new manufacturers as well, because Mazda were coming along, Nissan were coming along, BMW, ultimately Mitsubishi, which we'll get to. And it actually leads us to something of a rare gem, because there was a tremendous battle in the Sandown 400 all those years ago involving Moffat in the Mazda, Grice in the Holden. At the end of the race, both had claimed a win. Officials, I should say, had awarded the race win to Grice, but Alan Moffat was certainly not happy about the notion of another Holden win. Have a look at this.
And Alan Moffat on lap 33 of the Castrol 400 takes the lead.
Going into the pit area now, so stand by Gary Wilkinson. Here comes Alan Moffat. I would think a very unscheduled pit stop.
Well, bad luck for the Masters. The two teammates striking both on lap 47.
Black flag is out. Is he going to go into the pits? No. Is he going to drive on and argue with them afterwards? That has happened before today.
Here's the checkered flag. It's going to go to Alan Grice. Hand up, and Grice takes the Castrol provisionally. The crowd has erupted here in the grandstand. Alan Moffat has yet to finish the race, although he was in the lead by 48 seconds. But perhaps two pit stop infringements for going too quickly through the pit area. Alan Moffat signalling to the cameraman.
Go away.
Well, here's Grice. I'm quite sure Alan Grice will act as though he's won as well.
I'm sure they're both going to act as if they have, so this will be very good.
We're given the black flag, what about 5 or 6?
Given the black flag, I came in, I reported to my pits as the rules indicate. There was nobody there to tell me anything to do. It's not a Sunday afternoon picnic. I went back out on the track again. It's a long time and a lot of hard work to get onto this lawn at Sandown. Brocky's been here for 7 years in a row. There seems to be something going on that if you don't drive a Commodore, you can't win a race around here. Thank you.
So, that's the good guys. Clearly, Alan liked to play the bad guy. Which role did you play?
I was in between a lot of them. Trying to worry about that manoeuvring.
Somewhere in the middle. Tell me about the 1982 rollover, because that's another iconic moment. Obviously not a good one for you, but it's one that we all remember.
Certainly everybody remembers that, and constantly. The car was just fantastic on the day. I think it happened on about lap 19 or 20, somewhere around that area, but the car was good. It had so much grip. As it would come up out of a corner, you could feel it going woo, 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 with the acceleration. through the whole chassis was just total grip, and that was our undoing. And in fact, the rim split under full load, as you saw just before it crashed. It was sideways. In fact, in my mind, I thought it had broken one of my fiberglass rear springs. I thought, spring, bang, done. And it was a gentle rollover. It was one of those like, psh, over we go, switches, turn the switches off, wait for it to come to a stop, and hop onto the roof and crawl out. It was easy.
Yeah, it sounds simple.
There was no problem.
So let's have a look at it. We shall go to the break on the Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. We'll relive that awful moment for KB, a moment where the Camaro ended up upside down. And then after the break, we'll have a close look at the car. Stay with us.
Oh, he's gone. Kevin Bartlett's roll is over. Bartlett has gone. He's got Dick Johnson maybe into him. No, Dick got out of the way. But the back tyre is off. The master is there to try and get Kevin. He's okay. Kevin Bartlett, another wretched year for him. He's looking to see the tyre, saying, what caused it? That's it. That's what caused it, he says. Damn. He's happy. He's not happy what's happened, but at least he knows what went wrong. Because he just lost the car suddenly.
Oh, everybody's hero, Dick Johnson. Listen to the cheers. If he keeps that up, I hate to think what the final lap time.
Oh, he's hit the fence and he's gone off the track into a tree.
Marshals and firemen racing to the scene where Johnson has gone off and either taken out cable or the camera.
As we bring you these pictures from...
There's Dick Johnson in centre picture now. There he is, taking the helmet off. He's okay.
Wow. Frightening incident, KB, and when you look around the circuit then and just all but zero safety. By 83, you'd only run the Camaro on a couple of occasions, and you were in fact co-driver for Dick, so you were down at the bottom of the pit paddock watching all that, and then there's an extraordinary story to turn the car around involving everybody, Tony Warren of the TAFE guys, and then grabbing another car, etc. You tell it.
Well, I was standing in the pit watching it on the box as everybody else was, and standing alongside me was Jill. And of course, when it's happened, Jill didn't know who to go to, you know, so I had to stand there and tell it, it'll be right, he's okay, he's okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible incident.
But afterwards, the effort those guys put in was just fantastic. But the car was not the car that we'd had. You know, it was a different car. Everything was totally different. I mean, it was seconds away from being a car.
And Evan Green told the story, I think, on the grid the next day of, you know, having green paint on his red jacket and all the rest of it. Yeah. And you managed to scramble into the race. But look, I don't think we can go any further at all without delving further into that magnificent Camaro that you drove and paying homage to that very special vehicle. And here's Mark Osler to tell more of the story.
Thanks, Neil. You know, it's interesting. I'm always intrigued by the resistance that Alan Moffat had to running an RX-7 Mazda in Group C touring car racing. They said it was too much like a sports car because it had a long bonnet, sloping roof, 2 doors. Hello? Look at this thing. 2 doors, sloping roof, long bonnet, short boot, and the boys on the hill thought it was fantastic. I think the two big differences were it had a Chevy badge on it and it was powered by a thumping 5.7 litre or 350 cubic inch Chevy V8. Amazing car. Just look at it. A big, bruising, tough American muscle car. And it looked so wide on the track, it almost seemed to take up the whole track distance. KB had to basically pioneer development of this car all on his own. So, even though it's an American car, it has a huge amount of Australian input in it. A 500 horsepower Chevy 350 V8 he developed locally, capable of a top speed on Conrod of over 170 miles an hour, or about 280 clicks. Incredible. GM Muncie 4-speed gearbox, big 12-bolt GM diff in the back, and from 1981, he was able to fit disc brakes on the back. The biggest challenge with this car was it was too heavy. When he first got it, it was about 200 kilos heavier than a Falcon, so he had to get a lot of weight out of it. Now, as Kevin referred to before, he put fiberglass rear leaf springs in it. That saved 100 kilograms all on their own. The rest of it was done by going through the car from front to back, replacing heaps of bolts with aluminium components, removing whatever he could, and he did eventually get it down to that weight. It is honestly one of the most exciting cars to have ever raced in Australia over those 3 incredible seasons. You know what? It really does deserve its place as one of the greats of Australian touring car racing.
Well done. Brilliant job. Once again, Mark Osler with another Shannon's classic car. And KB, by the time we got to the end of 1984, the Group C era was done and dusted, and you'd migrated to a Mitsubishi relationship, which we'll expand on. And Aaron's got something here from the vault to tell us more.
Oh, Neil, I know there's a lot of passion from our followers here of Shannon's Legends of Motorsport, of the Group C era, and we're getting towards that middle part of the 1980s when Group C ended. I've dug from the 7 Vault this little bit of vision from the final major Group C race. This is the Enduro from the old Surfers Paradise in Queensland, and the closing curtain to the story of the Big Banger Commodores.
There are a couple of no's in racing, green cars and the number 13. The combination of Dick Johnson's Falcon and lap 13 saw the Ford in trouble with gearbox problems, while Warren Cullen followed 2 laps later in his Commodore. The Moffat-Masterton duel continued into the middle stages of the race, with the Sydney Ford driver keeping the lead from laps 30 through 41, before Moffat finally outgunned him under brakes. Sadly, Masterton was into the pits a few laps later. He had rear suspension problems, a legacy of pushing a big car too hard against a fast small car. Nissan Turbo driver Gary Scott took up the challenge after the demise of Masterton. He made up 10 seconds on race leader Alan Moffat and Peter Brock, only to be shunted off the track by a slower car. Brock finally took Moffat for the lead and began to pull away, while Hansford in the second Mazda engaged in this thrilling duel with Steve Harrington before taking over third. The final lap, and Brock was in no danger of not giving the Commodore a race win. But the second and third finish to Mazda drivers Moffat and Hansford gave the Endurance Championship to Mazda for the second consecutive year.
End of an era, but I just want to get a brief comment about Surfers Paradise there, because that was a racetrack.
Yeah, great racetrack. No matter what category of car you went to Surfers in, it was always a challenge. It was great in the little cars, it was good in the endurance races, in sports cars, it was a great circuit in Formula 5000, it was a great circuit in touring cars. It really had a mix of everything.
I just want to get a comment also about the Mitsubishi project, because we're going to move on to that topic and move through the 80s. How did it come about? What was it all about? Tell me.
I'd had a bit of an association with some people in Mitsubishi back in the 60s, running against them at Mount Fuji in the Grand Prix, in the Japanese Grand Prix, and I maintained those contacts. It was the only attractive sort of proposition to me to be able to get some kind of factory backing, because there was no Mitsubishi racing in Australia, and it just sort of evolved, and that's how the Group A team was formed.
We'll take a break now. Let's have a look at KB in action in the Mitsubishi Starion.
We're following Kevin Bartlett, of course, in car number 42.
Yes, the leader of the under 3 litre division, Mike, and as I said, sensational performance so far by this the smaller capacity car, but Bartlett has really done it well to be in 9th spot on the track at the moment.
They're racing. The dice at the front row. Johnson slips a gear, and look at Alan Jones move up smartly to be in contention, trying to make it 3 wide as they go into the first of the right-handers, and it's Jim Richards who goes through to take the lead. Dick Johnson's there, and look at Jones and Colin Bonnan, the 2 alphas coming up to put the pressure on Johnson almost immediately.
Watching the Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. We're moving through the 1980s in the history of Australian Touring Car Championship racing. That was the first event of 1985, and the first time that Seven had put together what was going to become a whole series in the years ahead. Pretty dry-looking Winton back there in those days. And with Group A, which was the term for international touring car racing that was around the world at the time, things were changing. BMW arriving, Mitsubishi arriving, Alfa Romeo, as you saw. So it is time now, with all that in mind, to welcome a very special guest to the program. Would you put your hands together, please, for Tony Longhurst?
Age before beauty.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us, Tony. And you were really the first of a new generation of guys that emerged in that mid-80s period when BMW and Frank Gardner were coming to the fore, and you changed the game, and you made a big statement.
Well, it was amazing. I look back that I just made the right moves at the right time, and that Alpha Sud series at Amaroo, I didn't realise there was a bit of a love-hate, or just a hate relationship with Frank Gardner, who's a JPS team manager, and Alan Grice, and the last race of the series, I got into a bit of a biffo with Bryce. He knocked him out of the way, and I went into on to win that race. And a few weeks previous, I'd put through a resume to Frank Gardner to try to get a drive, and didn't hear anything back from him. You know, a week or two, a month later, he rang me while he was up at Surfers Paradise and said, "Oh, we just finished a race meeting here. Come down and have a test drive of the car." I did that and jumped straight in the car, and within no time at all, I had a drive.
And one of the things that I distinctly remember was just how strong you were at Amaroo Park. You were, I mean, the stats tell the story, but you were quick. There was a great little racetrack. Frank's cars worked well there. He did all of his testing at that location, and so that all dovetailed perfectly for you.
Yeah, it was just awesome little cars, and they were very hard to do any good at Bathurst earlier on, but at Amaroo or Lakeside, they were just brilliant. And I watched the way the guys are racing now, and that's how you could drive the BMW. You could get in there and just drive as hard as you could every single lap. You know, it was a qualifying lap from the start to the end of the race, and it was awesome. It was really a great part of my life.
Let's have a look at you in action with your teammate Jimmy Richards at Amaroo Park, a team 1-2.
Tony Longhurst sitting in behind him, but Tony is back there in about the 5th spot at the moment through Dunlop Loop, and now the exit down towards Mazda Corner. Frank Gardner looks happy, and why shouldn't he be? His driver comes through the short straightaway to Wonderlick Corner. Out of the turn now, checkered flag is at the ready, and the Endurance Championship Round 1 BMW Power strikes again. 1-2 here today at Sydney's Amaroo Park.
Well done. And KB, one of the things that I'd forgotten about, in fact, when we were doing a little bit of the research for the show, was that you renewed your BMW relationship and indeed your Frank Gardner relationship because you drove for them in 1986.
Yes, I ran the Sandown race and I assisted at the Bathurst race. Yeah, that's right.
And when you say assisted...
Well, I was a bit of a passenger there because my co-driver planted it in on the first lap. We tried to play catch up all day from then on.
All right, well, KB, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the program. Tony's going to stick around with us. Folks, would you put your hands together, please, for Kevin Bartlett, one of the great legends of Australian motorsport. Thanks, KB. The other thing that was going on in this period was Volvo was making a statement as well. We'll take a break on the Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
As they head next week towards round 5 and the halfway mark of the Australian Touring Car Championship, onto the bowl for the final time. In the Valvoline Volvo dealers entry, car number 10. Last corner coming up, the right-hander off the speed bowl here at Adelaide International Raceway. And Glenn Dix has the checkered flag ready as the Super Kiwi, Ronnie Francevic, comes out of the final turn to taste victory. He takes round 4 here today at Adelaide International Raceway. Top, down the roller coaster. Here comes Johnson, sits in behind. We'll get the draft pull through this turn. See if he's got horsepower to burn as they come out. I think Signer's really got the pedal to the metal, so to speak. Lap 15 as they work the front straight. And Dick Johnson, the crowd goes wild with excitement. He pulls up on the outside and takes Signer. Dick Johnson from behind now leads. There is the view of our secondary race cam in Signer's car as he trails the race leader, Dick Johnson of Queensland, into the carousel.
Fantastic stuff. Lakeside, it was a wild little racetrack. It's still in existence, in fact, and that was Dick rounding up Glenn. A pretty brave move there, leaping through the kink in the straight. We're telling the story of the 80s in Australian Touring Car Championship racing. Earlier, our special guest was Kevin Bartlett. Tony Longhurst came along to join us as one of the new faces to emerge. And as we move to the latter part of the 80s, another guy started to make a very big impression in the sport, and it's my great pleasure to welcome him now to the program. Hands together, please, for Thomas Mazira.
Thomas, Anton.
Nice to see you. Now, you guys were teammates and generated that wonderful win in 1988. That was a great career moment, breakthrough win, huge moment for both of you. Well done. Tell us about it.
Frank knew Thomas, and I hadn't met him, and Thomas was, I think, in the UK, so we were getting Sarah parts off Thomas and on the phone to him all the time.
He was a parts runner?
Yeah, he was a parts runner. And part of, I think, his whole deal, find us the parts and come and drive with us at Bathurst. And came out and did Sandown and Bathurst, and we ended up winning it.
Fantastic. And what about for you, Thomas? Because at that point in your career, as I detailed there a moment ago, you'd got out of Europe, you've done Formula Ford here, you're trying to make your way, trying to scratch a living, and to win the biggest event of the year must have been spectacular.
Well, I was living in Europe back then, and I still try to do single-seaters, and that's the racing I really enjoyed, you know, driving the little Formula 3s and it's fantastic motor cars. And I never sort of, you know, thought I'd drive touring cars because my dream was Formula 1. And I failed, and you know, never made it there. But luckily, I just got some breaks to drive touring cars, and one of them was to come and drive with Tony in that Yellow Beast. And I tell you, that was a horrible car. Like, Jesus, I couldn't drive the thing. I remember we went first time to Lakeside, and I just showed it on a screen, and every time I touched the accelerator, like it's gone sideways. And I was driving like Glenn in a wet at Bathurst, we saw, you know, in some stage. And anyway, I just go on that hungry corner up to the hill and all crossed up. And by the time I come on my first lap on a pit straight, there's Frank in his head wide in the middle of the straight. I nearly ran him over, and then, you know, he stopped me and I said, well, listen, pal, that's not what it's all about. And anyway, that was my first lap in a Sierra, and I didn't enjoy it because I couldn't drive the way I'd like to drive it. And anyway, we went to Sandown and we put a little bit taller diff in it, and suddenly the things became a little bit more drivable, and I'm getting a little bit more comfortable in it. And we were actually doing quite well, Tony, at Sandown after we broke the tail shaft on a grid, and we lost 5 laps, and trying to put another one, but then the car, then the car lasted, and we were going reasonably quickly, and that was the first time I kind of thought, well, maybe we can do all right at Bathurst. Yeah.
Frank was a huge influence for both of you guys, and we all have very fond memories of the late, great Frank Gardner. And I remember he used to tell the story about the driver's best friend. That was one of his things about your left leg and what you had to do on the dead pedal. So, yeah, tell the story, boys.
No, Frank would, you know, he was obviously very smart and ahead of his time back then, what he'd set up with the JPS BMWs, his driver training and everything. But, you know, to brace yourself, sit square in the car, where you position your hands, keep your head straight. So he was a good mentor, and he was always on to us to do particular things, and I've kept that all my life.
In that race where you guys ultimately did clean up at Bathurst, my recollection is that you were dealing with a jamming throttle or something as well. Wasn't there a bit of a story related to it?
Early on, I think we had a spring brake, and so we didn't on the accelerator pedal. So having to pull the accelerator back sometimes, and I even forgot what Thomas was saying. The cars then, they were just brutal. You know, the Sierra in '88 is just as fast as the supercars now down the straight. You know, you get 600 or 700 horsepower in the car, 1,100 kilos with the small wheels. You know, they're just absolute jets.
Let's have a look at the extraordinary and overwhelming joy when these guys were on the podium at Bathurst.
There's a crowd going berserk. Thomas Mazera. Go on, Thomas, throw it over. A brief word, Thomas. This sure makes it worthwhile coming back from Europe to drive here today.
It's wonderful to drive for a professional team. Everything's so well organized, and no one else deserves the win in here than Frank Gardner. He was trying for a long, let's say about 2 decades now, and almost had it, but not quite. But today, I think, if we could, we give the race to Frank.
Tony Longhurst and Thomas Mazera, the winning drivers, will just move the guys to one side because we've got Frank Gardner coming in. Frank, everybody wants Frank Gardner.
Great moment. A great moment in the history of motorsport. And Thomas, as I said before, you were the Formula Ford champion of Australia in 1985. And look, we've been pumping your tyres up here, so we need to give you a little clip along the way. Do you want to share with the class the story about what happened at Amaroo one time when you thought you'd won a race, but you didn't?
No, fantastic. Yeah, great for a sponsors. And I was lucky enough that, the car I was driving, I didn't own, and the gentleman who owned it, he had a business Dalcar sponsorship on it, and I was doing well, and I was winning the races, and I was having a good race with Mike Quinn, and he was in a Lola car, I was in a Reynard, and it was raining, all race rained, and we pulled away half a lap from the rest of them. We were having good battle. Last lap, going into stop corner, we banged the wheels and no one wanted to give inch, and we both spun. And I managed to recover a little bit quicker, and I hooked the first gear, but because I was off the road, I was picked up so much mud on the tyres, and I'm coming then to, this was in the second last corner, in the stop-go corner. I'm coming to the last corner, and I can see all my blokes on a pit wall just cheering, and then I put my hand up, last corner, and I bloody spun the thing. I didn't hit anything, yeah, I didn't hit it, but I went off into infield, and then I'm coming out of the infield, and in the corner of my eye, I could see Malcolm Osler, brother of Mark. Mark's somewhere in the audience. Anyway, Malcolm, do you know what the hell is going on? Why everyone's so excited about second place, you know? He didn't see me coming from the infield, and he beat me by about a car length, I think, and I finished second, yeah.
Never waved to the
anyway,
crowd.
the sponsor was so happy because it made every news.
Yes.
6 o'clock news in every channel in Sydney. Yeah.
Never wave to the crowd when you haven't got across the finish line first. Now, the good news for you is that has slipped through the vault, but Aaron Noonan's with us, and he does have some other video evidence, though.
Neil, I tried really, really hard to find that race from Amaroo. What I did find, though, was from Sandown on the old infield long track. Thomas in action in his Formula Ford title-winning year of 1985. Lap this up as we go to a break on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
Thomas Mazera escaped from Czechoslovakia 3 years ago to become an Aussie. Something he looked forward to. First race in 1978 in Czechoslovakia in a Skoda touring car. You might find the car he's running at the moment perhaps a little more competitive in motorsport.
Immaculately prepared and turned out cars from this camp.
This looks good. I think he's made a better entry into the Reed Park area than Klaus, and looks to be just as wound up. Very smooth through here. Two-wheeling. Goodness me. Fantastic stuff from Tony Longhurst. The car just working every which way. This is going to be an interesting sprint time. Goodness me, in 11.89. Beneath the Bridgestone Bridge, down to the last one of 208, 209 so far. This looks good. It sure does. The exit. The checkered flag awaits Tony Longhurst, and here he comes. Oh, a 2:16.98, the fastest man so far.
On it, well done.
This man, how was that stuff? I don't think the thing was straight at all at any point in that lap. Wild lap, well done.
Yeah, young and fearless, eh?
Yeah, crazy. Position 3, and I've had people say to me at different times when they reflected on some of these cars that in fact was the fastest Sierra ever. Do you think there's any truth in that statement?
Yeah, I think it was, but you know, it used to go through the tyres and used to blow to bits all the time.
I can't imagine why when you look at some of that.
Just crank it up until it blew up. That's about it.
It was quick at Bathurst.
It was quick.
Tony was always obsessed. Like, I remember the time I arrived, he was obsessed about beating Dick. Then, because, you know, Dick always beat him all year, by half a lap or 2 laps. And for some reason, like, first time he came into the pits after practice, the first thing was, no, change this, change it. What did Dick do? Yeah. What time did he do? And he got mad. In that, you could see it there, in that qualifying. He wanted to beat Dick.
The stuff of you coming out of the cutting then, and basically you slithered the entire way to Skyline. The car just slipped and slid the whole way.
I'm scared watching it now.
I know. I'll give you a copy of it later. And you were still kind of bouncing backwards and forwards to Europe as well.
Yeah.
Because you were doing your sports car thing, and I don't understand why you didn't stay together for the next year. What was the story there?
Oh, well, they got Alan Jones. It was pretty obvious. Then following year, I got a call up to drive with Holden.
Well, let's have a look in the 1989 archive at Thomas having his initial drive with the Holden racing team, and in those days the HRT cars were painted in HRT colours, but in actual fact they were Larry cars. Here it is.
Perkins back at the wheel after a stint by Thomas Mazera, who of course shared victory here last year with Tony Longhurst, but has spent most of the year in Europe pursuing ambitions to get top open wheeler drives in the European competitions. Testing for Mazda at the moment, a Mazda-backed team about to make entry perhaps into Formula 3 racing in Europe. In fact, Thomas is heading back tomorrow for a testing session at Silverstone.
And we should just briefly touch on the Group C sports cars that you drove as well. Thomas got the opportunity to drive, was it 956 or 962?
962.
Unbelievable cars, incredibly fast, and the sort of stuff that every driver dreams of.
It was definitely the fastest thing I ever driven, and there was a situation when I drove in Suzuka. Then I came here, drove at Sandown, and between Sandown and Bathurst, I went to Fiji and drove 1,000 k's Fiji in a 962 and back to Bathurst, and it was so easy getting from a sports car into a touring car. Like, everything was happening in a slow motion, and it was a little bit harder going the other way. Yes. Because you really had to pay attention, and those cars were quick. It was very exciting, very exciting.
I'm absolutely certain of the fact that it would have been. I want to remind everybody also about the Shannon. Enjoyed having conversations with all these guys. Would you please thank Kevin Bartlett, Tony Longhurst and Thomas Mazera. A great program today, just a little snippet of some of the stuff that went on in the 80s, and thanks also to the team here at Bowdens. Don't forget to join us next time for more of the Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. Bye for now.
Jim Richards is an amazing man. I learnt more from Jim Richards away from the track than I learnt at the track.
But the crowd should be ready to salute Jimmy Richards. And that they do.
We all get called legends, and it's very complimentary, but he is one of them.
Oh, he's gone. Kevin Bartlett roll is over. Oh, he's hit the fence. He's gone off the track into a tree. Pulls up on the outside and takes second.
Fantastic stuff from Tony Longhurst.